I guess I've been bruised if we were to speak plain. Every bruise that comes to flesh makes its mark on the brain. You say it's always been and always will be, and anything you'd say has already been said a million times.
Alright, so we're going to be graphing derivatives. And it is a fairly easy concept once you understand the basics. So I will start off with drawing our position function, which will be a cubic function of some sorts, and we will call this function just f of x, and our derivative will be obviously f prime of x. And so to start every graphing derivative problem, you're going to want to find where the slope of the tangent line to the curve equals 0. And the slope is 0 wherever the slope is horizontal. So we're going to find the slope of the tangent line to the curve. Slope is going to be 0 right here. So you can see the tangent line is horizontal, leaving the slope 0. To graph it, you would just take the zeros and put them directly down to the x-axis, because that's where it is 0. Okay, so now we have to understand our position function. The slope of the tangent line to the curve, this on the first portion before the first 0, is positive. So you can help yourself by drawing little plus signs, because the slope is an upward positive slope. And in order to graph that, you're gonna have to understand what the slope is. So this right here, the slope of the tangent line to the curve is about 1. So you could start by putting a dot on 1, because that's where you're going to start. And it is 1, and the slope is slowly getting smaller and smaller and smaller along this until we get to the 0. So this is simply going to be a curve down, because it starts at 1 and gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until we get to our 0 slope. Alright, now we will focus on the middle portion right here, and as you can tell, the middle portion is at a downward sloping, so that it's all negative. And it starts off really small, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until we get to about a -1 slope, and then it gradually gets smaller and smaller and smaller until we get to our second 0. So to graph that, you would just start out at a very small negative number, and then you would go down to our -1 and back up, because it starts at a small -0 right here, gets more negative, bigger and bigger and bigger until a -1, and then goes up, 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 gets smaller back to our 0. And now for our third part, from right here to right here, as you can tell, it is all positive. And the slopes of all the tangent lines to the curve are going to start out smaller right here. It's going to be very small, like a 0.000000 number, and then we're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until our slope is back up to 1 again. So you start out small, go back up to 1. So what we should have for a graph is a parabola graph, and that is going to be our f prime of x and our first derivative. Our first derivative could be something like velocity. That would help better explain our position function.
Way back I used to front like kangaroo at Mechanicsburg, Anchorage, Dar es Salaam. Well, home in New York with champagne and disco, tapes from LA/San Francisco, but actually Oakland and Alameda. He goes in Berkeley with a communist reader. Mine was in tune with a boombox and Walkman. I was a horrible girl that was back then.